Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. We're glad to see everybody here tonight. The crowd is already really picking up. Kim Jones just celebrated 7 months with the Wild Hunt. Hey, thank you so much for that. Just saw that pop up in the chat. Really glad you guys are joining us. Apologize we didn't do the last couple of shows. It wasn't a big a family emergency, but it was kind of an emergency. Our air conditioner quit, and it was about 11 million degrees in this house, and there was no way I was going to set in my office under studio lights to try to do that show because it was sweltering. I would have been baking. It's kind of working now, but the landlord still got to get someone else out here to completely fix the unit. It's kind of station keeping at the moment, but we've got a bunch of fans going and we're going to sweat it out. So I've got a couple fans going here in the office and we're going to gut it out tonight. It is still pretty warm in here, but that's why we didn't do it the last couple of times, because it was so hot. But we're going to get through tonight, and tomorrow Robbie will be here in Missouri. And joining me here in the studio tonight is Robbie Rip Rains, momentarily in South Crackalacky, but going to be here in Missouri tomorrow. And Steve Wildman Monroe is joining us. He's been like the elusive cryptid that does Patterson Gimlin, the Patterson Gimlin co-host. There we go. We've only caught glimpses of him in the wild a couple of times, but we're glad.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Boys, hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing all right. I'm dead tired and a little too sober, but having a good time otherwise.
They've been working you like a rented mule.
Oh my God! Yeah, it was. It's been brutal.
Steve, we'll fix that, and we'll fix that in around 24 hours.
Fix both things, yeah, yeah. Since so I've been having some on top of everything, working 4 12s in a row. I have had some raging insomnia. And so I've not slept all day today. I've tried. Since Tuesday evening at 5:30, I've had 11 hours sleep.
Ooh, that's not a lot of sleep.
So it is not. It is not. It's I've got enough caffeine in my system that on the way home I was talking to Jesus and I can taste sound. But we're doing all right.
Well, we're glad you're back with us.
Well, if it gets too hot there tomorrow, our thermostat's on 68 over here. There's no sense in you dying at Satan's nutsack if you want to,
well,
cool off a little bit.
Maybe we may take you up on that. So we'll get it figured out eventually, hopefully. But I'm glad to be back. I missed not doing the last couple of shows. I'm still gonna go back and do the zombie show. Sean Chester and Alan Gamboa are both going to be back. It's going to be scheduled for a Saturday, but maybe not this coming Saturday. Since Robbie's still going to be here in town, we may or may not have a show then. And don't forget, folks, on July 2nd, I go in for surgery. So there at least won't be a show on the 3rd because I'll still be in the hospital. And it'll depend on how I feel and whether or not we have one that weekend. I'm going to be whether I can't even use my left arm at all for 48 hours. And then I've got limited use of my left arm for several weeks. So kind of bear with us. It's going to be a choppy summer, but we'll get through it.
Yep. There goes your social life.
Roxanne Doc was going to be in, but he had something come up with family at home and he's not going to be able to join us this time, unfortunately. So we're going to try to plan something again for later in the year or maybe in the spring. But we are definitely at some point going to get Doc and Robbie and Steve and all of us together and be idiots and go out and see what we can poke fun at and get something's attention out in the woods. Edie says, "Is Steve doing the operation on me?" No. Fortunately, I've got a surgeon. I trust Steve with my life, but I don't know that I'd want him cutting on my chest.
Well, I could. I don't know if I could possibly do the procedure, but I could probably close up afterwards. I'm not bad with stitches.
But trust me, Steve, I'm going to have Steve on speed dial because anytime I have a hiccup with that, I'm going to be calling the most qualified medical personnel. Okay, this has happened. What's going on? Especially the first time that thing shocks me. I'm probably going to have a mild freak out. What the hell just happened to me?
I'm waiting to see you get Tourette's over it. Yeah, we sit there
already
just
told my wife
talking.
I'm going to be doing that to the doctor. After I get that, where the doctor comes in to check on me, I'm going to be like, is this normal?
We doing the show.
Like, you better not. And it's like, you better not do that. And I'm like, I'm gonna.
You'd be like, what's his name in Boondock Saints?
Yeah. Or the guy in the great outdoors that had been struck by lightning like 60 times.
Wow,
Well, it's funny
66 times.
Yeah, it's funny you were talking about the twitching. I heard a story when I was in nursing school about a guy who had gotten a pacemaker, as when they had first started going to the really small little pillbox pacemakers, and the surgeon saw the thing upside down. So when it would fire, it was firing the chest muscles instead of the heart, and so every time the thing would go off, the guy would go. And it wasn't doing anything for his heart. They had to take him back under the knife a second time to flip the damn thing around.
Poor guy.
They don't work like that anymore. But
my biggest fear, I'm going to be like, my biggest fear is I'm going to be like doing something just like completely mundane, like lifting a glass to my face, and it's going to hit me, and I'm going to dump all of it all over me or something. Or the first time it hits me, I'm going to crap myself. That's a big concern too. Hopefully it never hits me, but having that thing in there to shock me once in a while is a little unnerving.
Thing's going to go off. You'll be able to smell your left eye. You're like,
yeah, I can just imagine, the look on Noah's face when he figures out he can set it off with the remote control.
It's funny.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned about it, but I make fun of things when I'm worried. So I that's years of being a cop. Robbie will tell you, Steve will tell you, that's the same thing in the medical field. That sick sense of humor is about the only thing that gets you through stuff when you're stressed out. So I've been making a lot of jokes about it, but I am pretty worried.
If you have one of your buddies tase you, you could probably like build up the charge like Iron Man did, and just like shoot a lightning bolt out your ass.
Wolverine asked me if it was a pacemaker. It's not a pacemaker. It's an internal defibrillator. I don't need a pacemaker, but I have an irregular heartbeat, and they want to make sure that should it get too irregular, something can zap my ass back into normal functionality, which I think, for me, God knows what that's going to be. Larry Berlin says, "Did your surgeon use scallywag knives? I may take an assortment with me just so he's got something really sharp."
Well, Ken makes the next scalpel, so
that's true. But this is a chest, so
there you go.
Is it the same?
Could be.
Yeah.
I guess if you
just have him grind it down a little finer.
Let the chain hang down a little bit lower, make a bigger chain, and it'll hang on your chest, and it'll be a chest scalpel.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not excited about it. Oh, Kim Jones says, "Don't forget the axe." Yeah, if they're cracking me open with an axe, we got some big problems.
I don't know.
My axe has been
autopsy
used on all kinds of crap, so it's not exactly sterile.
That autopsy I went to, they were using like the tree pruners to go through the ribs. And of course, it was obviously you don't care about infection because it was a deceased person. We obviously wouldn't use something like that in the OR, nor are they going through your ribs either. But
yeah, they're just like making a little pocket in the chest tissue because the thing's pretty small, and then they're inserting lines, like little
leads,
basically wires through the ribs and into the heart muscle. Oh, yeah. Oh, they told me they're going to hit me with propofol, Steve. I said, you mean the milk of amnesia? And they're like, how do you know that term? I'm like, I worked over in the ER security. I've seen people hit with propofol before. Like,
It's
yeah,
good
you're not
stuff.
going to remember a damn thing when you wake up.
Nope.
Yeah, they started laughing when I called it milk of amnesia.
Seriously.
That's no joke, though. I've seen people hit with that stuff, and they wake up and don't know what planet they're on.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I'm probably
Not
going to
only
be
does
pretty
it,
out of it for a day.
well, not only do you not remember anything forward from it, it actually rewinds you a little bit. So it's
It's
like
going to reset. Well, I'm going to
you
wake up. The little clock on the VCR is going to be flashing.
seriously, they reset you a
When
little
did the
further.
power go
So
out?
like, they get you with a Versed or something like that. Your memories stop at the moment they push it. Like when I had my colonoscopy, I remember the guy going, "And here goes your Versed." And then the next thing I remember is when I wake up in the post room. This, you don't remember the guy giving you the medicine. It backs it up a few minutes, and so you're like, well, the last thing I remember, they were pushing me down to the OR.
It's like the human version of Control Alt Delete.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'm probably just gonna wake up in my hotel room, not hotel room, my hospital room. I'm like, where the hell am I? Why am I here?
You need to screw with them
What is
and
my
wake
chest
up.
hurt?
You need to wake up and speaking with a foreign accent. Like pretend you want to watch an anesthesiologist shit himself.
Or if you could have your phone somehow and have that blue screen sound, that ding,
Yeah.
you wake up and hit that, and just have that
Like
blank
you hit an
stare on your
error.
face.
Just wake up and the only thing I'll say is error 404, error 404. Memory not found.
Insufficient RAM.
Yeah, insufficient RAM. There we go.
That's too funny.
Oh, sorry, folks. I know that we're not really talking about Bigfoot, but yeah, I've just like I said, I've been pretty nervous about this, and it's kind of good to laugh about it.
We're derailed 13 minutes into the show.
We never really got on the rails.
Yeah.
Well,
At
that's
least
true.
it's when it says
we ain't
Guts
left
Eddie,
the
the
station.
microwave will make you pee your pants and forget who you are for 30 minutes.
We ain't left the station yet.
I was gonna say we wrecked our Uber on the way to the station.
I was about to say, I don't even think we got on the train.
And
Or if we did, it took a dirt road.
Yet. That's not good. Now it's time.
Oh,
Text Air Life
What?
420. That brings
there
me
we
back.
go.
Oh man.
But on a more topical note, there's been some interesting stuff going on here lately, just in the Midwest on when it comes to Bigfoot. There was another daytime crossing not far from here, down by Ava of all places. Some people said they
really?
saw a large creature covered in dark, kind of what they referred to as scraggly hair, and that it crossed the road right next to a bridge. They were heading for a narrow bridge down off between Ava and Ozark, and said it walked just clear as life, just right across the road in front of them.
That's creepy. Of course, that'd be in the Mark Twain, wouldn't it?
Yep, that is right down there in the Mark Twain.
Yeah.
And when I've been down in places in the Mark Twain, it's one of those things where you can almost tell you're being watched. I mean, some of those places are freaking deep and woolly in the woods, and there's no way to get a vehicle in a lot of these places. You've got to park at a certain point and hike your ass in there. Recently, if he's listening, I'm sure he'll pop up in the chat if he can get the chat to work. He was having trouble with that the other day. But my old lieutenant, James Jenkins, he pops into the chat from time to time. We went down to the Mark Twain National Forest to one of the Bald Knobbers graves. And if you guys don't know about the Bald Knobbers, that's part of the history of Missouri. After the Civil War, there was a group called the Bald Knobbers that were formed because Southwest Missouri was pretty lawless. And they were originally formed as a vigilante group to enforce the law. And they wound up becoming one of the earliest known examples of organized crime. So they went from good to bad pretty quick. But one of their graves, one of the guys that was hung, is buried down in the Mark Twain near their old homestead. And we went down there and parked, and then went way back into the woods. And you get that far back out in the woods, you kind of just, it's a different feeling when you're like, there ain't a damn person around here could hear us if we started screaming.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
in space, no one can hear you scream, or in Mark Twain National Forest.
That's out past Chadwick. And Chadwick ain't exactly civilization as most folks know it. That is just a wide spot in the road.
There's a lot of those towns around here.
A lot of poke and plum towns. Poke your head out the window, you plumb through it. Robbie, you had any new sightings in your area?
Yeah, Johnny's actually working on one right now. We think that it's somewhere close to here where we're at. I can't remember he sent me the link and I watched the video, and we're trying to work out where it's at. We think it's somewhere up above where we had our original encounter, he and I. So somewhere up around Highway 11 in the Greenville County side of Highway 11. But a guy and his girlfriend were up there, and something they were on, like, driving one of the trails that go off up into the national forest up there, and something crossed the trail in front of them. And I want to say the description was either dark brown or black, but a dark color, but it was getting like dusky dark. So obviously it's hard to tell exactly what color, but crossed the trail in front of them. But the way it sounded is they were kind of coming around a curve, and just as they kind of hit the apex of the curve is when it was kind of going across. So it was like the headlights were over here, or turning back this way, and it was over here on the other side of the headlights. So the headlights never like fully got onto it, so they couldn't really see a good clear picture of it. But so could have been a bear, could have been something else, but they said it looked like it was on two legs. So, and that was 6 or 7 months ago, I think.
Some creepy stuff.
Thank you, Billy. Appreciate the super chat. Yeah, and that again, that's just right down the road from your house, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
Just within. Hell, you could probably walk it.
Well, I don't know about walking it. It's probably about 25, 30 minutes ish.
Oh, that's not.
But still, I mean, not far. It's the first place that I sent you those pictures where we found what we thought was scrape marks going up the hill is a little bit further than that. So probably 35, 40 minutes away from here.
I
Cool.
was talking to a guy the other day, and he said he used to go camping down by Shell Knob, which is right there where the Big Bay campground was closed. And he said they used to hear what they referred to as monkeys out in the woods when they were camping down there. He said it's one of the reasons they stopped going, and that's in the Mark Twain. He said that they would hear what sounded like chimpanzees chattering in the trees, and he says sometimes they get pretty close, but they never saw them. And to me, that just goes right in hand with some of these campgrounds that are being mysteriously shut down. Shell Knob is right there where Big Bay is at.
Well, I told you the story of that guy that used to work for the sheriff, or worked for us, and he left and went to the sheriff's office. Now he's back with us. He's had something growl at him out. And I know there's, Sonia's in here, so she'll know what I'm talking about. But it's in between Daniel High School and Edwards Middle School. But when he started talking to people about it, there was a bunch of old timers, and they called it the Monkey of Mile Bridge. So it's actually called that because people have seen stuff that look like a big primate, and it makes sounds like primate noises. But he had like 10 or 15 different people he talked to. Oh yeah, that's a Monkey of Mile Bridge. So that's another one that Johnny and I are kind of looking into to see if we can run some stuff down on that. That'd be
Well, there's a place just outside of Warrensburg, Missouri, that my dad told me about years ago called Monkey Mountain, and the locals claim to have seen a big monkey. Well, like that area out there used to be a favorite parking spot for teenagers, if you know what I mean. And a lot of teenagers would get ran off by this monkey that would come up and scream at their cars.
Yeah, it's that is a very sketchy place. The
Warrensburg,
local
yeah.
law enforcement, well, no, the Monkey Mountain specifically, the local law enforcement because that's close to Farmington. The local law enforcement won't even go up there.
Really?
And I'm like, what is it about? It's well, just all the meth heads and stuff like that. I said, wait a second, there's meth heads up there that scare the law enforcement away. And my brother was like, yeah, I don't buy that story either, but they won't go up there.
Maybe me, you, and Dan ought to go up there.
Yeah, he's dumb enough. We ought to.
Man, we've got it. Between the three of us, I think we've got enough of an arsenal. And I'm sure Noah would go too. And if Robbie's here, he'd go. Yeah, we could go up there.
But yeah, it's I remember when
dumb enough and well armed enough.
well.
Exactly.
When I sent you a picture of my loadout in my truck, or that I was getting ready to put in my truck, the DA said, "Are you planning on invading Missouri?" I said, "Nah, just making sure we're the second largest standing military force in Missouri."
That's right. Gary Lowe says there's a ridge line north of Forest City, Missouri, that's called the Monkey Mountains. Gary, I didn't know that. Have you been there, or do you live in that area? If so, send me some information on that, because I'm not 100% sure where Forest City is, but it's in Missouri, so it's definitely close enough for me. I'm a Midwesterner. If it's less than 10 hours, it's close enough to drive and go check it out. But if it's here in Missouri, I'd be thrilled to go check it out.
Yeah, and we got a week. We can add that to the list.
Hell yeah. We've already got a ton of places we need to go. Isabel says, is there a Tucson, Missouri? Not that I'm aware of. I've been to Tucson, Arizona, but I've never heard of a Tucson, Missouri. It's up close to KC. Well, that's only about 3 hours from here. And one of the best barbecue joints in the States right up there. So, well, technically it's not the state. It's just across the border into Kansas. It's called Joe's Barbecue in Kansas City, Kansas.
Well, see,
I'll turn into Homer Simpson just thinking about it.
Look, all I'm saying is, if we're going to go to the Rockin' Pig, then we got to go to this other place and compare them.
Okay.
I'm just saying, we got to have a fair comparison. Do you agree, Steve?
I think so.
We have to have a sample group.
You know how you talk about like when the ley lines intersect, there's like a nexus of activity. Missouri is kind of like that when it comes to barbecue, because for decades there's been a big battle between Kansas City and St. Louis as to what barbecue type is better. Kansas City likes their dry rubs and St. Louis likes their really sticky sauces. Well, about the time you think you got that all figured out, we're close up to Memphis, that stuff's coming up now. And so you get a really weird, very unique barbecue style down here.
Brian Forrester, who chimes in and says, you had me at barbecue. I'm in. Well, Brian, you're welcome, brother. Brian and I were, well, technically he wasn't a rookie, but we were rookies at Greene County together. Brian's an old buddy of mine. We put a lot of miles and put a lot of boots to ass together in uniform. Brian, how you doing, brother? Glad you're here.
I'm just saying, we can't. One is not a big enough sample size.
Yeah,
it ain't scientific at all unless you got at least a control.
Yeah, got to have at least two. So I mean,
Missouri's got some really good barbecue places. I mean, if you like barbecue, we're the place, because we've got kind of the sweet spot between a lot of different styles, and you can find just about anything around here. In fact, the Rockin' Pig down in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, their beef is all Wagyu.
Yep,
Steve and I went down there.
Yeah, when DA told me that it was that all the barbecue has Wagyu beef, I basically called bullshit. I'm like, I've never heard anybody taking Wagyu and making barbecue out of it. They did. It was worth it. It's amazing.
Yes. They're raising Wagyu beef here in Missouri now. There are at least 3 herds down near Ava.
Yeah. One of the gals I work with, her family has one of those herds. They also have some bison down there too. But
Oh, barbecue
it's
beefalo. Oh my God, beefalo is such good meat. You know, we derailed again. Now we're talking food.
yeah, yep. Well, we almost got on the train, but then we tripped and it ran over us.
Yeah. Uh,
It's probably not good to get three overweight middle-aged men talking about barbecue.
yeah, it'll trip us up every time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
Well, we got to talking about Monkey Mountain, and then it just kind of. But you know, if we can find that place, I would definitely be down for going. One of the places we're planning on going is Smittle Cave. Robbie's got a 4-wheel drive. We are gonna get back there. It hasn't been raining much the last couple of weeks, so the creeks might be down. But if it was like it was, a month ago, we might not have been able to get a 4-wheel drive in there.
We'll attempt it anyway.
Yeah, we're going to get down there. We might be calling AAA to come dig us out, but
Succeed or die trying. Tawanda.
That's right.
And I'll stop at a Buc-ee's on the way down. They sell everything. They might have a winch. I'll buy a winch.
Well,
There's a Buc-ee's right
we
outside of Springfield now.
yeah, we got a Buc-ee's. Actually, the Buc-ee's is real close to where you're going to be staying.
Yeah, just you're
It's
probably
enough.
2 miles from that Buc-ee's.
Uh-oh. That ain't good. I'll spend all my money. Have you had their here we go talking about food again. Do you have one of their pulled pork sandwiches?
Yes, I have. Those are pretty damn good. Those are pretty damn
I
good.
did. I finally had one last week.
Johnny has been talking to me about that. Well, on the way back from LBL, he said, all right, we're not going anywhere for lunch. We're going to stop at Buc-ee's, and you're going to get one of them dang sandwiches. All right, twist my arm. Oh, my gosh. That's one of the best barbecue sandwiches I've ever had.
Oh, yeah. And they ain't that expensive either.
Nah.
Yeah. Mark Napier says, hey, AAA, do you have a helicopter? Yeah, where we're going to Smittle Cave is kind of like that. It is, yeah. If we ain't got cell service, we're going to be walking a minute before we find a house.
You have to call in a Jayhawk to get us out.
Get a Chinook out of Fort Leonard Wood to come airlift us.
Call the gate at Fort Linwood. Hey, I need to speak to Major Clark, please. Who?
For those of you who have been asking about the Steve Lilly stories, I did finish one. For those of you guys who are members of the Patreon community, the story is up now that you can read it. It's called Lily Moon. It's an Apex Predator tie-in. I sent it to Cam, and I think he's going to try to record it in the next few days. He seemed pretty happy to get it. So I should be hearing from him in the next few days when he's going to have that out. But there is a new Steve Lilly story from me that hopefully he'll have up on the show on his channel here real soon.
And the other one is pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty excited to get that one done too. I'm really happy. It's progressing pretty well.
Yeah, I was going back to when you first you had maybe a chapter of that, and you popped that in again. I was like, and I just kept reading, and I was like, wow, where'd all this come from?
It's about 50,000 words now. I hope to have it done probably in the next couple weeks.
That one, that's really good.
For everybody that has been asking about Gray Eagle, this is going to address that.
Yep. I kept waiting. I was like, all right. And now. Like, that gummit.
Trust me, it's going to get exciting.
Well, it's already exciting. I'm just like waiting for that one part to drop. I was like,
oh, Miss Naomi reminded us we just hit the bottom of the hour. Let's go ahead and hear a word from old Doc. while we try to focus ourselves and get back on the topic. Here's old Doc with Dark Angel Medical.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Dot Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And if you check out darkangelmedical.com, don't forget to use discount code Cryptid20 for 20% off your entire order. And the classes and gear are HSA and FSA certified. So if you're a first responder, your training budget will probably cover it. So make sure you check them out and let them know we sent you. You know, that's one thing that about these areas we're going to be hitting, Robbie, is these are some areas where not only I've had things happen, but a lot of other people have as well. That area around Smiddle Cave, the way they built that up over that cave, there's got to be something going on down there. And that is not far from Grove Springs, Missouri, where there's a lot of activity. And as the crow flies, it ain't that far from, you guessed it, the south gate of Fort Leonard Wood.
Fort Lost in the Woods.
Speaking of Lost in the Woods, did you hear there was a soldier who went missing on Leonard Wood? He was a Marine who was there for training, and they found his vehicle, and he's gone. They have not been able to find a trace of him.
No. I was
It
wondering
is
when you're going to bring
very
that one up.
difficult to make somebody disappear on an active military base because they got to go out that gate.
Well, and everything's under surveillance.
That is not an open post anymore. It used to be. You used to be able to just drive on and off that post without any problem. That was a pre-9/11 world. Now you've got to stop. They search your vehicle. They check your ID. Yeah, there's a lot more to getting on Fort Leonard Wood than there used to be when I went there. And
Oh, yeah.
I just find it very hard to believe that somebody just, abducted this guy and drove him off the post. So, if it's foul play and somebody did it, they're going to find him eventually because it is a big post. It's 25,000 acres. Some soldier sometime will stumble across whatever. But if it's cryptid related, they'll never find him. Those woods are too thick. I mean, it's part of the Mark Twain.
So how far is that in relation to what we were talking about, Smiddle Cave? How far is that from?
I don't know how many miles it is, but when it comes to that south gate of Fort Leonard Wood, is, Fort Leonard Wood's in Waynesville, St. Robert, and the south gate of Fort Leonard Wood is on the back side of the post, and which will put it down by below Cuba, I believe. I'd have to look on the map. I can't remember the name of the town. Steve's more familiar with that area, that backside area, because Farmington's on the backside.
Because his pub's there.
Yeah, his pub's there.
What?
But
I mean, I got it.
That's a very thick wooded area.
It is. That's why it's so funny when people go looking for Steves out there. Where you describe it in the book, there's nothing but woolliness.
Chris, you're incorrect about that. Yes, Fort Leonard Wood is an Army base, but a lot of services train there. They've got the chemical school there now. There's so many schools on Leonard Wood that other services train at. It didn't used to be that way. It is still an Army base, but a lot of services do train there.
Well, just about every base, fort, there's so much crossover now. People train,
especially when you've got bases that specialize in a certain type of training.
Because
Fort Benning's an Army post, but everybody that wants to get airborne qualified, no matter what service they're in, they go to Benning.
When we went to Fort Sill for Kevin's graduation, my brother's in the Marine Corps. He came down there for graduation or for his graduation. There were people from the Air Force down there. There were people from the Navy, obviously, because Oklahoma's, right next to the ocean. So obviously you got to have the Navy there. I mean, there were people from all branches down at that base. Back in the day, it was one of those, you go here, you go there, you don't cross over, but there's so much. And And
There's a lot
going
of
to all these different
inter-service training
bases.
today that didn't happen when I was in.
Yeah. Well, going to all these different bases with my brother and my son and all this kind of stuff with the stuff that they've been doing, you see all these different branches at these bases or these forts or these, you know, my brother's got, he's at Air Station Beaufort, I think, Marine Corps Air Station Beaufort. He's got 2 guys from the Army that are in his unit that underneath him that work on some of their mechanics that work on some of their planes or some of their, I don't know if it's their planes or a helicopter or whatever, but he's got 2 guys from the Army in his unit. Or I don't know if they're actually in his unit, but they're there and they report to him. He's the XO. So,
the missing Marine on Leonard Wood, while I can't necessarily say it's cryptid related, it's weird, and the circumstances under which he went missing are just weird enough to make you wonder. Because the military is not saying a damn thing, and normally they don't anyway. It's not like they make a big fanfare about military investigations, because the UCMJ is not subject to the public scrutiny that the civilian law enforcement is. So they're not required to share information, but this is a case that made national news. And the fact that they've said nothing has really kind of been odd. The Army's generally pretty good to get the public eye that they'll make at least a statement, and they've been pretty quiet about it. But the simple fact that they found no trace of the guy whatsoever, there's something more going on than we know. Could it be cryptid related? Yes, because there are a lot of sightings on Fort Leonard Wood. I know of it like half a dozen just off the top of my head, especially in some of those more wooded areas toward the south gate. Fort Leonard Wood is a heavily wooded post.
a lot of those bases are. What did we say? What was where I go train in Anniston? What was that was that Fort Campbell? Is that what that used to be?
No, Fort Campbell's in Kentucky.
What was it? What was the one in Anniston? What did it used to be? We had this discussion. We figured it out, and I can't remember what it was. But same thing.
Fort Rucker?
Might have been. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway.
Where's it at? Anniston, Georgia, you said?
Anniston, Alabama. Right down there close to House. But it's the same way. I mean, it's like smack dab in the middle of the woods, basically. I mean, there's some thick woods all around those fences.
Was it Fort McClellan?
Yep, there at Casey Gallup, Fort McClellan. And
McClellan,
that's
right. Okay.
All the Cobra training and all that stuff is now. And especially that part of it, where the Cobra base is, it's like dead in the middle. I mean, there's nothing around you other than the roads that go into it. It is like just like you took your hands and spread out a big spot in the woods and set the buildings down inside of it and nothing else. Put the fences around it. It's like, I guarantee you it gets spooky around there at night.
Thank you for the super chat, Josh. He said you mentioned before that the fence does go all the way to the top of Smiddle Cave. Could you fly a drone through the gap? We could, but I don't trust my drone piloting skills well enough. I would be afraid it would get back there and hit something, and then I'm just out the drone because you can't get in there to recover it. Prospect.
Well, and then
I heard a howl.
You lose signal with the rocks.
That's a woolly area.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Fort Leonard Wood and the woods south have had several sightings. There's a lot of sightings coming out of that area, especially stuff along the big piney and the little piney rivers that run through that area. Those are heavily sighted areas. Isabel says, I think still thinks a drone would lose signal. I think if that drone got back in that cave, we would lose it. I don't think I think it would get back in there in that limestone and we wouldn't be able to bring it back.
Well, and too, you need to be able to have a really good signal on your phone, the GPS signal for most drones to work. I know mine, if you don't have a good GPS signal, the drone won't fly too good. I mean, sometimes you can get
flying it underground, probably not a great idea. Miss Naoma says, here's something odd concerning fences. they erected a fence in the middle of the Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky. Pardon me, I was hiccuping and belching at the same time. Sweet tea's coming back to haunt me. What part of the Daniel Boone did they put that fence up in? Lynn McThompson says I've heard of a few sightings at Fort Sill. I have as well. That area is well. They try not to build military bases around heavily populated areas for a reason. Even Fort Leonard Wood, even though just outside the main gate, which is called the Sverdrup Gate, just outside the main gate is St. Robert, and then Waynesville is right up against St. Robert. Those aren't big towns, and the only reason they're as big as they are is because of the post.
Yeah.
But the areas around Fort Leonard Wood, no other towns of any size, and they do that intentionally. They try to keep the looky-loos away as much as possible. But
Yeah.
Leonard Wood,
And he's right. Sill's the same way. I mean, the stuff that's around it is because of the base.
Mrs. Moon says Joint Base Lewis McCord has loads of sightings. Sure does. In fact, allegedly, the survival school instructors that teach there at Lewis McCord will tell students going through the survival school that Bigfoot may be something they might run into, and to be aware of it when they're going through the survival training. Lanita Bryant says Fort Cullen is Homeland Security now. Yeah, that's where Robbie has gone to train for. What was the school? What school was it, Robbie?
Well, I went to. It's those classes that have a name about that long, but Anniston, Alabama, or not Anniston. The Center for Domestic Preparedness is what runs it. But it's basically ran by the Department of Homeland Security, and it's not just law enforcement, but there's military. The first class I went to, over half the class was a National Guard MP unit out of California, and firefighters, police officers, military, nurses, doctors. I mean, you name it. There's, you can get in that class if you meet the requirements for what you got to have, like that ISO instant command class or instant command level class, like ISO 400, ISO 200, 201, all that kind of stuff. So, but they're free classes. They put you up, feed you. Pretty cool.
I was still active. I'd probably try to go to some of those.
You wouldn't have
Bobby
to.
Young just became a member of the channel. Welcome to the channel, and thank you very much.
You don't have to be active. There was a guy in the last class I went to who was already retired. That one, defeating protester devices.
Mm-hmm.
He was already retired, but he still had, kind of like you, he still had his credentials. So he had all the requirement classes. He just wanted to go because you don't have to be sponsored by the department to go. It's not like an academy class. You get continuing education credits for it, but.
Nice. I tried to hit so much extra training when I was still active. We went up, me and a couple of buddies of mine went up to Kansas City for a few days to do. It was a class on improvised explosive devices and how to defend against them. That was a great class.
Yeah, well, they got classes about that too. There's a guy that taught some of that first class that I went to. He was retired from LAPD bomb squad, and you talk about somebody who knows his stuff and can sit there and tell you some stories about stuff that's blown up and stuff that he's blown up. He said that there was always a back and forth between LAPD bomb squad and LAPD SWAT, because SWAT didn't want to come train with them because they'd always set up pressure switches and things like that. They're like, man, that ain't fair. You can.
Roxanne, yes, there are sightings around Whitman. In fact, there's a Dogman story on from one of the security detail on Whiteman Air Force Base. Apparently, it was stalking one of the security guys that does perimeter security. And that story's been told a few times on other channels. I've yet to be able to chase down the firsthand the person who actually originally reported the story. As people transfer from military bases all the time, so he's probably not even stationed there anymore. But there's a story that's made the rounds quite a bit of Air Force security who've dealt with Dogman on a number of occasions near Whiteman. Antonio Vasquez says, have you heard of the St. Christopher Dogman? Yeah, we talk about that quite a bit when we start talking about the history of Dogman, how it was originally referred to as the cynocephali and sightings of Dogman because the phrase Dogman's only been around since the 90s. Prior to then, there was people called it a wolf man or a werewolf. But when you look up the history of the cynocephali, they were reported by ancient Greece and ancient Rome, and allegedly Marco Polo had seen them. Christopher Columbus had documented seeing them on islands during his voyages. And of course, St. Christopher was the dog-headed saint. So there's a lot of history when we start digging into the cynocephali.
Oh, on that note, I heard about a new one, actually. You're familiar with North Sentinel Island, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
That island with those, like, the natives that don't want to be contacted by anybody, and like a missionary was killed there a few years ago. So I was watching a video today on YouTube about the kind of the history of that island, and in like the 1830s, the naval officer, I think it was a British naval officer that more or less discovered the island, in his log described the people as having the teeth and face and aggression of a dog. And
really,
it caught me. I was like, okay, the islanders are, dark-skinned, tiny, more or less hairless people. I'm like, okay, it's not the islanders they're talking about. But yeah, I just heard that today on a video I was watching, fighting my insomnia. And I'm like, that could be a loose description of a dog man.
Yeah, it sounds like one.
That's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, when you hear things like that, supposedly there are mountain valleys up in the northern parts of India, even today, that the locals say that these things live in these valleys. And if you go up there, you're not coming back out. And there's even been descriptions of some of them wearing like copper and brass armor, which kind of goes along with some of the sightings that supposedly people have seen in Afghanistan and other places of these things wearing some sort of body armor. So, to me, it just lends credence that they're smarter than we think they are. Got a super chat from Vincent Ellison. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. But, the more we dig into this, the more we find historical references to stuff like that. In fact, ED, who's in the chat, ED Testerman, him and I have been kind of talking offline. He's been doing research ED, correct me on this if I'm pointing this wrong, on congressional library resources, and he found, I want to say it was like 800,000 references to wild men and wolf men in old public articles prior to the 1960s.
Wow.
But it's like we said, the term Bigfoot and the term Dogman are
those are just
young
recent terms. Yeah, sightings of wild men and hairy men and things like that date back hundreds of years, long before we ever heard the term Bigfoot or Dogman.
We made a joke about it, but how many trains, Civil War and right after Civil War derailed, and wild men of Borneo
right
got out.
That was a popular excuse, but
yeah.
How many times could a circus train derail all across the country?
Yeah, and Borneo must not have had any wild men left.
No kidding, because a lot of them got loose here. Edie says he's got 19 references of those posted on his Patreon, and he's just scratched the surface. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of old newspaper accounts where terms like wild man or wolf man, are being used. So, folks, this isn't just a modern phenomenon. It's really in the age of like the internet and stuff. It's I'm really speaking my Ozarkian right there. It's really caught a lot of public attention, but the simple fact is, stories of these things go back to before European settlers even came to this continent. Native American stories, we're talking dating back more than 1,000 years and maybe even farther. I mean, we've only got recorded history for what, Steve, like the last 2,000, 2,500 years?
Um, well, if you count like the ancient civilizations, things like Mesopotamia, what like that, 10 to 15,000 maybe.
But
But
even then, there
they
were stories like the Gilgamesh story in
right,
Mesopotamia. They talked
yep,
about giant hairy men.
yeah, and I mean, there's they believe that modern humans came on the scene like 40,000 years ago, and and there were humanoid things here for 1 or 2 million years. Um, so yeah, it's and I was just thinking about the fact that you know so much of this history, before the written history existed, you had the oral tradition, and it turned into a lot of these cave paintings and things. They didn't have words to describe it, so we'll draw a picture.
Right. And they drew a picture of things they were seeing.
Hmm.
So we can take these cave paintings for what they are. They're painting pictures of what they've experienced. And that's long
Yeah.
before any human was able to record a fictionalized story. I'm sure, the two cavemen sitting around a fire, and there was probably, oh, I killed a tyrannosaurus and it was this big. I'm sure that every fishing story gets a little exaggerated, but they didn't have experiences to draw on. I saw a big 8 foot tall hairy guy. They didn't have our experiences or the internet to draw on. They were reporting what they saw. Like if you look at some of the Native American cave paintings that have been found out in the Southwest, where they depict a large hairy bipedal creature, they weren't doing that just to try to scare their kids. They were drawing things that they'd seen. So I think we're doing a disservice by still questioning the validity of these stories.
Yeah. So not that we've been able to stay on track with the dam tonight anyway, but back to our topic, I do have a kind of a question. I don't know if for you guys or for the gallery here. Uh, these daylight sightings that people are seeing, and people are just walking across the road. What kind of activity are you seeing from these Bigfoot? I mean, they're just basically just ignoring them and just crossing the road plain as day, or
Well,
you know,
there's a lot of commonality in the daylight sightings, and these actually seem to be one of the most common types of sightings. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of behavior reported, like when Greg House was on the other day, and he was talking about the one he saw across the road. He said it had noticed he was there, and then it just cleared the road, like that thing just jumped over my shoulder. It leaped and cleared the road. Then you have other stories where people, it realizes they're there and crosses quickly. But these daylight sightings are not that uncommon. When it comes to most Bigfoot sightings, it's probably the most common type of sighting. One that was sent to me in my email here just recently was a daylight sighting, and haven't asked their permission to talk about it on their sighting on the air, so I'm not going to mention any names. But what I will say is something unique about that is when it saw them, it held up its hand like it was trying to ward them off, and then walked across the road. To me, that denotes a bit more intelligence. It was like, hey, don't hit me, that kind of thing. Um,
hmm.
so
I
I
was
think
just
there's
kind of
some
curious.
intelligence to that story.
Well, it got me thinking about it, like for the stupidest reason, on the way into work last night, we've got a lot of Canadian geese that like to nest on the property there at Cox, and I drove. I'm driving in towards the parking garage, and this gander decides he wants to walk across the road, and he gave zero F's that I was there at all. He just moseys
Yeah,
across the street as if I wasn't even there. I honk at him, he doesn't react, and
animals do
it,
not
it
care.
got me. Well, basically, and my mind went to the okay. Is the Bigfoot doing stuff like this, or like you said, are they
Mhm.
they acknowledging and accelerating, getting away from the threat? I was just curious.
Gary Lowe had an interesting comment. He says, "Why is Neanderthal depicted not covered in hair when all other animals of that time frame were?" Well, the science of the time, the old British Museum, they wanted to make them look as human as possible. But more modern forensic reconstructions are painting a different picture. If you look at the book Them and Us by Danny Vendramini, the book is called Them and Us: How Neanderthal Predation Shaped Modern Man. It's a fantastic book. I've got a copy of it on my shelf behind my green screen here. But when you look at the pictures, the reconstructions that they've done, it looks like what people call a Bigfoot. It's large, it's covered with hair. Its eyes are more adapt for seeing at night than ours are. It really makes Neanderthal look like a relic hominid, which is the way Bigfoot is described by a lot of folks. There's another comment I was wanting to answer, but okay, here we go. Vincent Ritchie says, "DA, have you heard anything about a Bigfoot being double jointed, or maybe that's why they're able to move the way they do?" The only thing I've heard about possible double joint is that mid-tarsal break in their foot, and that allows their foot to flex different than ours. We have an arch; we don't have a mid-tarsal break in our foot, but I think that is, well, in my opinion, it's more indicative of them moving quadrupedally as much as they do bipedally, if that makes sense. I think that hinge in the foot, that extra hinge in the foot, allows them to come up on just their toes and then arc the foot enough where just the forward part of the foot is using propulsion. If you look at the way gorillas move faster on all fours, but they're perfectly capable of getting up on their hind legs and just walking. They don't do it well, but Bigfoot is adapted differently. I think that mid-tarsal break is an adaptation that allows it to move rapidly on all fours.
It's a terrifying thought.
Very.
I'm picturing like a silverback at full charge,
Right.
dropping down on all fours.
Deez says, "That sighting near me I sent you, DA, that jumped a 4-lane highway." These things can jump incredible distances. But if you look at chimpanzees in the wild, when they decide to jump, they clear some territory. That's because unlike, humans are technically part of the primate family. We're just an upright primate. But unlike other primates, we don't have that switch in our brain. We humans will stop when it's about to hurt us. Animals don't have that. Animals will exert every ounce of strength they've got if they think they need to. That's why your average chimpanzee is about 10 times stronger than your average human. If you went up against a 100-pound chimpanzee, it'd tear your arms off. Look at the times that people have had chimpanzees as pets, and they've attacked and bit their face off or bit their hands off. People can get killed by a chimpanzee quite easily. Now, you magnify that to something that's 8, 9, maybe even 10 feet tall, weighing north of 1,000 pounds. The muscle structure in that thing alone would guarantee you could grab you by the wrists and just pull you apart like a piñata.
Well, a gorilla can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I was just talking to a patient the other day. They had asked me, full moon, and so everything was kind of getting weird at the hospital. And they were asking if I'd ever had gotten, attacked by a patient. I said, yeah, it's happened a couple of times. And they're like, have you ever gotten hurt? And I said, well, I got clobbered in the head by a phone from a senile old lady. But as far as physically acted, the only time I actually got really roughed up was a 120-pound autistic kid. And he got me quartered in one of our exam rooms. And he was 120 pounds at that point. I was 255, and he went through me like goose shit. I mean, he threw me over the bed. He shoved our beds, which weigh like 500 pounds, into me, and I got shoved against the cabinet. I mean, it was like I wasn't there, and he was a 120-pound human.
We had a kid in the ER one night they called me down there for. He was autistic and violent, and that kid weighed 100 pounds, soaking wet, and he threw me over a bed.
Yeah, I mean, he tore through me. And then, on top of that, in my mind, this is like a 12-year-old kid. And I have not that I'm a fabulous fighter anyway, but what I've learned about fighting is geared at fighting another, adult male.
Mhm.
I had no skill set to know how to engage this kid without either seriously hurting him or just get my own self hurt.
Right.
You know.
Miss Naoma, you have a great night. Thank you for sending me that. I'll check it out as soon as I get a chance. Greg House has a great comment here. He says 100% their foot folds down in the middle and apparently it folds up also. I found many tracks that folded like our hands can fold, but it was 18-inch footprints in wet sand going up a steep riverbank. If you look at the larger tracks, let me see if I think I still got them. Hold on just a second. Yeah, I've got them. Here we go. That may not be far enough out, but that's that track we found just outside our cabin in the Smoky Mountains. But over here, up to the left corner, and then toward the lower right corner of that image, you can see scuffed parts on the ground that are much smaller. And like that one right there in the middle of that, they were just scuffed parts, but it was where it was moving, but not putting down its entire foot, if that makes sense to you. These were just scuffed up spots on the ground where we were finding tracks, but it was just partial, like knuckle tracks or something.
Top of the hour.
Yes. Top of the hour. All righty. I know you got all your stuff packed, Robbie, but you want to?
I left one just for
Right.
one of them I have in my pocket.
Tell us a little bit about Scallywag Tactical.
Plus, y'all got it. Y'all can.
Oh yeah, I got a couple. I'll grab the newer ones out.
Scallywag Tactical is another one of our veteran-owned affiliates. Make some of the best blades that you can buy. Craig and his crew are phenomenal. They've also just partnered with Gray's Tactical. So you got two very good companies now that are one big company. They got pretty much anything that you could ask for as far as blades go. They've got other things in their Scally swag like coasters and whiskey glasses and just all kinds of things. So if you're looking for some good gifts for first responder, outdoorsman, or just anybody that likes knives or anything to do with knives, go to Scallywag Tactical, check out their Blemish Blade section, use code DA Roberts 10 at checkout, get yourself an extra 10% off of their already good prices in the Blemish Blade section. Some of the blades are a little bit more expensive, but if you start really comparing blade for blade with some of the Spyderco and things like that, they're cheaper than those, and I think they're better.
And it's like what we say about Doc's kits. They're not cheap knives because they're not cheap knives.
Exactly. And, having a good knife and having a good med kit like one of Doc's doesn't matter till it matters, right?
What is it you say, DA?
Exactly.
If you have it and don't need it, then you'll never need it again. No, you need it and don't have it, you'll never need it again. There we go.
I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yep.
Go check them out and tell them we sent you. Scallywag Tactical, code DA Roberts 10 at checkout. That's all I got to say about that.
That's all I got to say.
Well, there will definitely be a representation from Scallywag on all of us as we're out in the woods this week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I usually just have my mini jack on me because, working in a hospital setting, I'm not likely to encounter something I need a big blade for. This is usually sufficient. But I think I'm going to bring in my the Wahoo out there because it's the biggest and sharpest that I've got. I've got it here, I think. Or just hold it up earlier. I like
pretty.
it. I don't have the real big ones like y'all do.
Well, we'll work on that. I'm gonna see if I can get Craig to send me some of the stuff. Every once in a while, I just get a box out of the blue. I'm like, holy shit, awesome!
Christmas, yay!
Yeah, it's Christmas. I've got one over
Reminds me
here
of
for Robbie.
that one
Do
company, Tac Pack.
I'm waiting for Robbie to get here. I've been meaning to send him this one for a while, but I gave Steve this same one, but that's still in the box.
Dang, I forgot all about that. Well,
Oh yeah, yeah, the Wahoo.
a few more hours.
That's what I was just showing. This is a slick little knife, and I love the grip on it. It doesn't slip when it gets wet. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it'll cut you long, deep, and continuous. In the spirit of our friend Doc.
You want to show some new products from Lone Wolf right now, or you want to wait till later?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
So, any folks out there like coasters with Wild Hunt on it, or maybe Ragnarok Rising? Sorry, trying to get the light off of it. Or how about the Lakeview Man? Also got Dark Frontiers and pretty much anything else you want on it. Or if you like stuff to hang on the wall, how about a canvas painting or engraving? Just some new stuff we've been working on. So,
oh yeah. Well, and I've got that stuff from your last trip on my wall too. I got that. Oh, can't get the perspective here. I got the Wild Hunt logo there, and the official, the very first Steve's Pub and Grub sign.
Got one of them right here. Mine's
I think
not
it's badass. That's all right. Well, I think it's awesome. You thought the original logo was going to be green for whatever reason you made it green, but that deep green is my favorite color. And I'm like, if I bought a bar and I designed a logo for it, it would be freaking green. I'm just saying.
Well, if you ever do design a bar and you want that logo, it is all yours, brother.
Well, if I ever design a bar, I'm going to make sure that it is as close to being a licensed D.A. Roberts verse bar as possible, because I want. I mean, it may be a dive that like my favorite place, it has 10 people keeping it open. I still want it to be represented, and eventually fill it up with just some like replica dumb shit from the books. Get a replica. Spirit Destiny. All the coasters in the bar. You do damn well. Yeah. Engraved glasses and Lone Wolf will get a nice contract. I'm just saying.
It'd be such an authentic D.A. Roberts bar. You'd occasionally find me passed out on the bar at the end, down there with my head on my head.
The only thing is the place that I was looking at here is so small. There's no way you're gonna be fitting Hitler's piano in there.
Kevin, that Dogman is not behind me. That's the logo for the channel. That just happens to be floating. The DA can move it wherever he wants to. That's not on anything behind me.
I'll move it down to. It'll disappear here in a second and pop up down on the bottom.
Yeah.
And
it's down by me now.
The Dogman behind me is this one right here. That's what you're talking about. But I think you're talking about the one on DA's thing. But anyway, if anybody wants coasters or whatever, we can do those now too. Do the canvas paintings. Keep calling them paintings. They're not really a painting. Well, I guess they kind of are painting because I still have to put the paint on the canvas. But
Darcy, we're still working on the recipe book. Compiling a recipe book is more work than I thought it was going to be. But we're still working on the recipe book, and there will be mixed drinks in it, including Steve's custom drink, the South Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, the South Boston is the close. Not that DA didn't have the ideas already, but if an alcoholic beverage helped manifest any of the later part of the DA verse, it was probably a South Boston cocktail or 5.
Yeah, we put away a few of those.
so Rick, when he was in town, he loves old fashions, and I made him an old fashioned. He said, "Yeah, that's one of the best old fashions I've ever had." And I said, "I want to give you something." And I asked him if he liked Manhattans. He's like, particularly, but he loves his old fashions. I made him one of those South Bostons, and he said it is about one of the best mixed drinks he's ever had. He had 3 of them.
It's a damn good
We hit
drink.
on something. Well, and I was
yes,
using
the
that
recipe
Prohibition
for
era
shepherd's pie
Bushmills.
will be in there.
Oh yes, definitely. And probably my chili, I would think. I think that needs to be in there.
Probably a couple of different types of chili, but that bison chili is so good. Lyle Thompson says, "Okay, who said embrace the stuck? Now Margolin has to drop into 100 push-ups."
Yeah, somebody said, I can't remember who said it. Somebody said they wanted some coasters with that on it. So, hey, if that's what you want,
That's
I can
funny.
do it.
Casey Calloway is asking about the South Boston. So the Manhattan cocktail is one of the cocktails named after the different boroughs of New York. Well, we Manhattans are normally made with rye whiskey. Nowadays, a lot of places will use bourbon. Well, DA and I both like Irish whiskey, specifically Bushmills, and so you use Bushmills Irish whiskey. Manhattan isn't quite
Bushmills
seen
Black
right
Label.
because there's not enough
Bushmills Black Label.
Bushmills Black Label. Yeah, there is not enough. We were trying to think of where's the biggest concentration of good old mix like myself, out there. South Boston. So essentially it's a Manhattan made with Irish whiskey, specifically Bushmills Black Label, with a little bit of twist on it. And
when you drink one for the first time, especially with the way Steve mixes them, because they're damn good, that inspires a quote from Raylan Givens on that, and Justified. That'll heat things up and cool them down at the same time.
Yeah, it's they're deceptively good. There's a running joke that every drink at my house is poured as a double, and the South Boston is only available as a double. But you don't realize exactly what you're drinking until it's too late. There's no setup in it. It's all alcohol.
Yeah, it's a kick in the liver, but it's a lovely kick in the liver. D says, "What proof is that, Steve?" I think Bushmills is about 80 proof on its own.
I think it is. I'm trying to figure out. I don't think the vermouth is very high proof. Now the bitters that I use, that'll heat your fire up.
That will.
I would say you're probably, if I had to venture a guess, probably about 75 proof, but your 4 ounces of 75 proof. So, you're going to feel it.
John Wayne says that Bushmills is smooth. John Wayne Gates says that Bushmills is smooth. Yes, it is. It's one of my 2 favorites. Bushmills Black and Dalmore 12 are my 2 favorite whiskeys. Steve, you create a drink called the defibrillator. It'll zap you.
Maybe we could use that as the name for a drink we did with the Mountain Dew stuff.
The taint ticklers.
The taint ticklers, yeah.
Those were pretty alcoholic too.
They were a little rough. I recall having a little trouble staying on my chair after a few of those.
Yeah, we were a little hit shammered that night. Bobby Younce says, "I got to get up early. Glad you stopped by. You have a great weekend too." Someone asked earlier, I think it was Roxanne, asked if we were going to try to go live while Robbie's in town. We're going to try, internet permitting. We're going to try to go live from some places. If no one, I can figure out how to do it remotely. Because when I go live here on the computer, I'm using what's called Talk Studio, and I think I've got it set up right on my phone, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to try, probably just do a test run on it in the next day or two. I might do it later tonight just to make sure it works. But as long as I've got power and signal, we're going to try to go live from some of these places.
Yeah. Well, and if I have the grocery getter available to me, it's got 4G Wi-Fi built into it, and I can throw my laptop in the car.
Nice.
So that's another option too. We joked about making it a crypto intercept vehicle. If only it were 4-wheel drive.
regardless, even if we can't get on, we're gonna have plenty of recording and audio equipment that there'll be some footage, even if it's not live. There'll be some footage of stuff
Yep, definitely.
because we got psionics, and if you have not seen through a psionics camera with an infrared light at night, it is amazing. And we've also got a thermal. We got some wireless microphones. We got 2 DSLR cameras. Yeah. And Paul, if you got my email from back up in the chats, if you want to put an order in for something, just send me an email and I'll get started on everything when I get back next Sunday, week from tomorrow. I'll be home.
I've got a 9,000 lumen tactical light I'm bringing with me this time.
Hell yeah.
That thing will sunburn your soul.
Gilbert Miller said he was just watching Justified just before today. I love that show. Stetson makes that hat that Raylan has. It's Timothy Oliphant, but Raylan Givens' hat. They make that particular hat. It's called the Marshall. It's a little pricey, but it's one I really want to get. I would love to have that hat when we get back where I'm recovering from surgeries and we can start making purchases again. Because like I was joking the other day that right now our finances are stretched tighter than a gnat's ass over a rainbow. When that's no longer the case, I'm going to get that hat. Greg House says Timothy Oliphant would make a great actor to be in a movie made about DA's books. I love Timothy Oliphant. He would be great. He's a little old for Daniel Clark, but I could see him playing Gideon.
I was about to say, he's who I saw as Gideon when I read about Gideon. I love Timothy Oliphant, and I totally saw him there. And I think he could pull off the
Now,
much older soul than his appearance.
If he was the age he was when he was in that movie with Steve Zahn and Mila Jovovich, well, they were in Hawaii, which was that was a great movie. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, the two couples, they were on that big hiking trail in Hawaii. One couple was a serial killer, but Oliphant played a special forces guy. Pretty sure he was a Navy SEAL, but he's never actually out and out said it. Where he kept calling himself an American Jedi. If he was that age that he was in that movie, he would be a perfect Daniel Clark.
Roxanne, no, I have not been to the Stetson factory. I would love to. I'm a huge fan of their hats. In fact, this one's a Stetson. It's from their Buffalo collection. It's actually made, the felt is made from buffalo.
That's a Stetson too.
Now I got another one up there. I have 2 Stetsons. The other one's up where I can't reach it.
I got to up my hat game. Unfortunately, because I'll be the only one of the three of us that still has hair. I don't wear a lot of hats.
I wear them all the time, keep from sunburning my noggin.
Well, yeah, cut your cancer risk down. I'm going to be wearing a boonie when we're out at doing our stuff because, I don't want to get skin cancer again.
Josh, thanks for the super chat. But yeah, I've already thought of that. I've got multiple power banks charging. Yeah. So we'll have backup power supplies. Plus, I've got the connections in the car, so we can always fire up the car and plug things in and let them charge.
Yep, I got a solar battery charger, and I got all that stuff too.
I always used to think of
some power pack too.
Clint Eastwood's son Scott as Daniel Clark.
Yeah, definitely. I think Timothy Oliphant. I don't know how tall he is, but I think he's a pretty good sized dude. He's not like Tom Cruise. I always picture Clark as being kind of squirrely, relative to.
In my mind, Clark's not a big guy. In fact, the real life guy whose last name is Clark that I based Daniel Clark off of, he's 5'6" and a runner. I mean, Dude looks like he could, could run all day. And he's like Daniel Clark. I swear to God, that guy was born with a freaking pistol in his hand. I've gone to the range with him. We've gone to the range with him many times, and in fact, there were instructors on the range that told him to loosen up his shot groups so they could count the shots.
Well, Clark says in the first Lakeview Man, he says, "I'm 5'8".
Yeah, Clark's not a big guy. I've never seen him as a very big dude. Most special forces guys that I've known. It's rare to find a special forces dude that's built like a linebacker. They're there. But most special forces guys, especially Army Rangers that I've known, are built like long distance runners. Those guys are built for endurance.
Well, Rick's only 5'9". He was a Ranger.
Rick's a prime example.
Ranger.
He's not a real big dude. In fact, if you saw him sitting by himself in a bar, you probably wouldn't look at him twice.
Well,
he's just a normal looking guy, but he is
look at David
death
Goggins
on a stick if you piss him off.
Look at David Goggins. He's a runner, but that Joker, I mean, how he missed the Delta selection by what, 15 minutes, I think, on his land nav the first time, and 3 minutes the second time. I mean, he's as tough as they come, but you wouldn't look at him and think, oh yeah, that's a Navy SEAL, almost, a Delta operator.
Yeah,
he just looks like a normal guy. Tim Kennedy
says The Rock is Margolin. Mark, for how jacked he is, because Margolin does so many damn push-ups. The guy's got to be incredibly jacked. I don't know. I've never thought about casting Margolin.
The Rock does not need to be in it.
The Rock's not a great actor. I like the guy.
No, and he's a freaking liberal too. I'm sorry. He doesn't like guns, even though he made his money in the movies on shooting guns. Sorry,
we were talking about Rick. The thing with Rick, you never would look at him until his body language changes because he sensed a threat, and he goes from 5'9" to about 6'8", and you go through the bar and you're like, yep, not messing with that one. But, yeah.
Somebody from Margolin would be, and I can't think of his name, but he's funny and he's got that build. Lone Survivor, the one that played Danny. I can't think of his name. He's been in a bunch of movies, but the one Danny's the one that got shot through the head right there. He's the last one that Marcus saw alive before he fell off the right.
Mm-hmm. What the heck happened?
I don't know.
It just went crazy.
A little fart there.
We're back.
I don't know what caused that, but holy moly!
Well, for the record, it happened about 30 seconds after someone made a comment about politics.
Dang satellite, Miss Lene got it. And that must have been a damn satellite. Nathan Fences, are you talking about Emil Hirsch?
I don't think that was his name.
Well, let me look it up real quick.
Have you seen that movie, The Gray Man?
I have not.
No,
it's a good movie. I can't think of the name of that guy, that actor that played Gray Man, but I think he'd do a good job as Margolin. Kim Jones says, "What about Daniel Radcliffe to play Margolin?" He's a smartass, but I don't know him as an action sequence.
There's
I don't know if he can pull it off.
Have talked about him playing Wolverine in the new.
I just can't see him carrying an action scene.
Yeah. Emil Hirsch was Danny.
Was it? Okay, I'm not thinking about Danny then. Which one was the redheaded one?
White. You're right. It's Ryan Gosling. That was the Gray Man. I think Ryan Gosling would do a pretty good job as Margolin.
Axel.
Ryan Reynolds as Margolin. That's kind of on the nose, but yeah, I could definitely see Ryan Reynolds as Margolin.
That's who I see him as. So the primary cast was Mark Wahlberg, of course, as Marcus Luttrell.
Yep.
Taylor Kitsch played Murph.
Played Murphy.
Emil Hirsch played Danny. Ben Foster played
Ben
Axe.
Foster. Ben Foster was who I was thinking of.
What else has Ben Foster been in?
Yep.
Oh, I know him. Was he in 310 to Yuma?
Yeah, I think he was. He was a bit character in that, but
He was in X-Men: The Last Stand, the original Punisher from 2004.
he was Archangel.
The guy with
Mechanic.
face chrome, the dude was pulling him out with the pliers. Yeah, that's the dude from 310 to Yuma.
Yeah, and he was Archangel or
Here's
Angel or
another photo
whatever.
of him.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think the way he played Axel or Axe or whatever he called it, he played. I just see that's. I just see him playing Margolin.
Little Patty says Chris Pine is Margolin. I don't know. I think Chris Pine's a little old for Margolin.
Margolin's still old now, but
in his late 20s.
Well, I totally saw Ryan Reynolds, especially the just random smartassery that comes out of him. And Ryan Reynolds is jacked. I mean, he really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no padding in Deadpool's costume.
John Wayne says Charles Bronson isn't tall enough to play Grey Eagle or alive. Charles Bronson passed away quite a while ago. When I created the character of Will Grey Eagle, Sonny Landham is who I thought of. Sonny's passed away. Sonny died in 2017, but Sonny Landham was who, when I created Will Grey Eagle, he played Billy on Predator. For those of you who remember that movie, Sonny Landham was who I mentally pictured when I created Will Grey Eagle.
I see that
every time I read anything with Willie, I see Sonny Landham's face.
And I would much rather have somebody like Sonny Landham play Will Grey Eagle than play, say, Micah, because Micah's a smartass. Will Grey Eagle's pretty serious. He doesn't joke much.
I'm scared, Poncho.
Ain't no man scares you.
I just watched that 2 days ago.
That's a good movie.
Yep. It's sad to think of how many good actors are in that movie that have gone on now. Because I think didn't Bill Duke just die not long ago too?
Yeah, not too long ago.
Bill Duke, Sonny Landham's gone. Carl Weathers is gone.
Carl Weathers just went. Was it this year or last year?
A couple months ago.
Casey Calloway says, no, I'm sorry. Darcy's Wiki says Moses brings plenty for Grey Eagle. I'm not sure who that is off the top of my head. The name sounds familiar.
Now, the guy who played, I think his name's Dakota Beavers, the one that played the brother in Predator Prey. He might be a good Micah because he had that little smart aleck twin he acted, and he's young enough to play that part.
So I have figured out who I think for Sarah. Isn't that Grey Eagle's wife?
Yes.
Sarah. Have you seen the Hulu Predator movie Prey?
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
Amber Midcloud. I see her as Sarah.
I think it's Mid Thunder.
Mid Thunder, yeah.
Mid Thunder. I'm sorry, my bad.
For grandfather Jay Matoska, when I first based that character, because he's based off my Uncle Buddy. He was full blood Cherokee. He married my aunt, but Jay Matoska is based off my real world Uncle Buddy. But for an actor, I would like to see Wes Studi play him. I
always thought either him or Graham Greene.
Yeah, either one would do a great job, but I think Wes Studi would really capture it more.
Yeah.
Danny Trejo for Grey Eagle. That's an interesting take because, Danny Trejo is just Danny Trejo, and I don't know. Yeah, I think he'd be more one of the Mohawk twins than Grey Eagle if he was younger.
Danny Trejo is just a badass. He has to be involved, you know. He's such a cool dude too.
What's Isbell? Is that Steve Wood buddy?
Yeah. Isbell.
There you go, Isabel. Danny Trejo could be.
Garza.
Danny's 74 years old. Danny's my dad's age.
So Danny's a little old to be playing action heroes.
Yeah.
This might break a hip.
I still wouldn't fuck with him.
I still say Sam Elliott for CSM Hammond.
I could totally see Sam Elliott as CSM.
Sam Elliott as Hammond.
Promised his wife he wouldn't buy any more tobacco, so he gets around to that promise by just bumming it off of everybody.
You know who I saw as Levi, and it didn't hit me until he just died, but Donald Sutherland, like a younger Donald Sutherland, because he could pull off that just good guy and just scary as hell all at once. And,
I think Kiefer can do the same thing.
Well, yeah, Kiefer's practically a clone of his dad.
Looks just like Donald. Looks just like his dad. So I mean, if you think, honestly, I think any role that a young Donald Sutherland could pull off, Kiefer could pull it off.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's a great actor too.
Yep.
And his delivery, he's got that same quiet kind of raspy delivery that his dad has. You know, it could be, you know, totally cool and entertaining, like, you know, Young Guns or whatever, and it could be scary as shit when he wants it to be. And I see Levi as one of those people that, you know, he's a good guy. You could joke around with him, bust his balls, whatever, and then that switch could flip. All of a sudden, he's the boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Levi keeps that command voice for when he needs it. He doesn't use it all the time, but when it's time to downshift, he becomes all business pretty fast. Kim Jones says, who would play Clark? I personally think Scott Eastwood. I think he'd do a really good job, and he's not a super big dude either.
Yeah, 5'11", somebody said earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, bottom of the hour.
Yep, bottom of the hour. We'll take a quick moment to talk about. Well, let me find mine. I know it's right here on my desk. I got all kinds of crap on my desk now. I need to clean up in here.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Oh, you got yours. So let me put the text up on the screen, and then we'll talk about it. Our other affiliate is Brock Blades from brockblades.com, and for the life of me, I can't find what I did with my Game Do, but Robbie's showing his off. Ken's a good dude. Was career law enforcement, and now he makes custom blades in the shop behind his house. They're all custom made. No two will ever be identical. I know we've got Scallywag as well, which is another knife company, but they're very different. All of Scallywag's blades are fantastic blades, but they're custom made. They're manufactured,
mass produced.
They're all mass produced. They're all identical. No two blades from Ken will ever be the same. They're works of art, but they're also functional works of art. They're made to be used. Fantastic blades. Again, you can custom design your own blade, and he'll make it to order. And you can check all of those out at brockblades.com. Check out the ones he already has available. And if you decide to order a custom blade, make sure you mention that you heard about Ken Brock here on Ex Machina. And check out brockblades.com. And don't forget to use discount code Cryptid10 for 10% off your entire order. Trying to get back to the chat. Sorry. There we go.
Somebody else that would have played a good Levi when he was younger, Kevin Costner.
You know who I think should play Steve Lilly? Greg House. He might have to trim his chin dragon, but yeah, he's, when I think of the kind of redneck that would go out and hunt these things, yeah. Greg House pops into mind. Greg, love your brother, but I think you'd be a great Steve Lilly. Brock Lesnar is Gray Eagle. Brock's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed dude. I'm not sure he could pull off a Gray Eagle.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of Native American in that young man.
Yeah. I mean, he started calling himself the Viking Butcher not too long ago when he started. What's those two guys on YouTube that show people how to butcher because Brock's got his own farm now. He butchers
Mhm.
it. So he went. These guys got a big YouTube channel. He went and did like 5 or 6 different episodes with them, learning how to do that stuff.
Nice.
And he
Oh,
that's when
I
he
got, I got one for you.
That.
So I don't think we've ever discussed this when we've done our fantasy casting. Who would play Steve? Not Lily, but the bar owner, Steve.
The bar owner, Steve.
Yeah.
Did you see? And I know he's short for the part, and not everybody likes Tom Cruise. But did you see the movie he did, where he was with Jamie Foxx and he played that contract killer with the gray hair?
I haven't.
Yep.
I gotta check that one out.
What was that?
Can't remember the name of that movie, but he had that kind of quiet dangerousness about him, and I think if he could do it that way, the guy behind the bar that's smiling and pouring your drink might reach under the bar and pull out a cig and put one in your forehead.
Well, you never mentioned, the physical build of Steve. We know he's got kind of iron gray hair, as does me, but Steve is not me. He's a different critter. And, although we haven't gotten into it, I don't know anything about it. Steve's seen some shit. We don't know exactly what he's seen, but he's seen something. And with the fact that he doesn't miss anything either, he doesn't have the clearance to know what's going on with the wild hunt, but he's not stupid.
Right.
And I'm
he
trying to
knows
figure out who could
there's
pull
more
that
going
off.
on than they're ever going to tell him. How about
Right, you got it.
How about Michael Biehn?
I'll look him up because I don't think I know
Michael
him.
Biehn from Terminator. He also played
Terminator,
Johnny
Navy
Ringo.
SEALs.
Oh, Michael Biehn. Yes. Oh, God,
yeah.
yes. Yes.
He always plays.
That would-
He always plays either a really high level bad guy or plays a Navy SEAL lieutenant.
That would totally work. I forgot. Yeah, Michael Biehn. Ringo from Tombstone.
He's a little older now, but he's still got that air of somebody you don't want to cross lightly.
Yeah, but I mean, so is Steve. I mean, Steve is at least my age, probably older.
Mhm. I think
You know,
Michael Bihn's older
in my
than us.
mind,
I
I
want to say
pictured-
he's in his 60s.
Huh?
I think
You
Michael
picture his
Bihn's older
60s?
than us. I think he's in his 60s.
It's like I picture Steve just a handful of years older than me. I'm almost 48, and I picture Steve like 55, give or take.
You know who and
enough-
I know I didn't actually describe him this way because what I like to do with a lot of the characters, unless it's important to the plot, I try to leave their physical description wide open so people can see who they want to see in the characters, or even if they want to see themselves in the characters. But when I pictured Colonel Boudreaux, the commander of Wild Hunt Team Odin, overall in charge of all the teams. He's Wild Hunt Fort Leonard Wood. When I pictured Colonel Boudreaux, I pictured Idris Elba.
Who? I'm sorry. Idris Elba?
Idris Elba.
Heimdall.
Oh, he's a good one.
What I can't remember what his name was in the Fast and Furious movies, but
Yeah, he's a fantastic actor, and he just has that commanding presence.
Oh, Kevin Bode made a good one. John Voight. Are you talking John Voight for Boudreaux or John Voight for Steve?
I think that John Voight would make a good Steve.
He could pull off Steve. He's a scary dude when he wants to be. And he can be
He's
nice
getting
as
up
hell.
there in
too.
age, though. He's getting up there.
I mean, age adjust him a little bit, but yeah. Because Danny McBride.
D says Antonio Banderas is Steve.
As long as it's not Steve Buscemi, we're probably okay.
Sid the Sloth is Steve.
Yeah.
I would like to see some of the guys from the 13th Warrior cast in that as well, like Dennis Storhoy that played Herger the Joyous. I love that actor. I'd love to see him in any number of places in the books, and I've got some new characters that have yet to be introduced that I'm sure some of those guys could play. But there's just so many amazing actors out there. And I would love to see any of my books made into a major picture or even a series.
So it is escaping me. The name of the character is escaping me. Oh hell! So I'm blanking. There's one I want to get your take on. I'll think of it later.
Hey, Sentinel's in the house. What's up, man? What's up, Sentinel?
Sentinel.
Of course, Sentinel would have to play himself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember who it was.
Jones is Boudreaux.
Forgive me, DA, I can't remember the character's name. The English dude that's on the Wild Hunt, the Templar dude.
Davidson.
What's his name? Davidson. Thank you. Who do you see as Davidson? Because I totally saw Tom Hiddleston.
Tom Hiddleston? That would be
Uh-huh.
that would be a good choice.
You could do
Your dangerousness about him.
Kevin McKidd.
Well, Tom Hiddleston, like when he was in King Kong. It's like he's reserved, but he's there's more to him than you think there is.
Justin Oldfart said Catherine Winnick for Valkyrie. Honestly, Catherine Winnick is who I envision too. So yeah, I'm right there with you on that. Wyatt Estes is Daniel Craig as Davidson. He could probably pull it off.
Oh yeah, especially a little younger Daniel Craig. Yeah.
And
Dee said Loki. Yep, that's what I was thinking. Tom Hiddleston.
you could, depending on how old you wanted to portray Davidson, you could either do Kevin McKidd or you could do Sean Pertwee. Sean Pertwee.
Sean Pertwee.
He was sergeant in Dog Soldiers, and then
he was Alfred on Gotham.
Because Davidson. I don't want to give anything away because it's going to be revealed in a book pretty soon. But Davidson's got some years behind him.
That's why I said
he doesn't necessarily look it, but he's got some years behind him.
Well, Sean Pertwee's a badass.
Mm-hmm.
I could. I was very impressed with him as Alfred in the Gotham series. I mean, he could certainly take care of himself.
Marcel78 says Donald Logue as an older Declan Kane or as Gideon. Donald Logue's a pretty good actor.
I like him too.
He's
very versatile too.
Talking. Jensen Ackles would be a fantastic Daniel Clark. He is not the biggest guy on the planet, but he can definitely play an action scene like very few other people. Greg House says Angelina and Salma Hayek got to be in there. But just to make Greg House happy, we'll have to find some place to put him. Mark Wahlberg for Davidson. Davidson's English, very very proper English, and Wahlberg does not do well with accents.
No, he does not. His Boston comes out too easily.
Lisa Smith says Nicolas Cage for Steve. That would be a very disturbed version of Steve.
Well, we said Steve sees some shit. Howard Stern.
Lyle McThompson says, I figured something was up with Donaldson when he prayed in Latin in the swamps of East Texas. Yeah, there's more than meets the eye to Davidson than yeah, it's going to be revealed pretty soon.
Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio, that would be a good one.
Ewan McGregor as Davis.
Yeah,
that would be. I would love that. That would be fantastic.
Ewan McGregor would be great. What about Vincent D'Onofrio as Steve?
I can see that.
I think that bear was wearing people clothes.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big dude, but I mean, depending on how it was filmed, they make Tom Cruise look like a, what's his name? The character that Alan Richard's playing now, Reacher. They can make Tom Cruise Jack Reacher. They can make Vincent D'Onofrio Steve.
I would like to have seen like Tom Sizemore before he passed away. I'd like to see Tom Sizemore as General Dalton.
Yeah, he'd be a good one.
You've seen him in Black Hawk Down. Tom Sizemore knows how to play a military commander, and he knows how to chew somebody's ass and make it look convincing.
Well, he was a
Oh my
sergeant
God.
in Saving Private Ryan.
Yep.
True.
He was.
Kim Jones as Liam Neeson as Davidson. Liam could pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Uh,
But I was just kind of curious. It hit me the other night that we've never fantasy casted Steve, and I was curious because
Alfred from Gotham for Davidson. Well, that was the guy we were talking about from
Sean Pertwee.
Sharp Pertwee, yeah.
Name. Wyatt Estes
Yeah,
is
his
Tom.
dad was Doctor Who.
Yeah, he would. Selleck would make a good General Dalton. Arkansas Hog Hunter says, I can see Katie Sackhoff as Shield Maiden or Raven. Yeah, I think she'd make a good Shield Maiden.
Tom Selleck as Dalton. That would be a neat one.
Angela Monroe says, with Jensen Ackles as Clark, it makes the dogs being Sam and Dean even funnier.
I hadn't thought about that. That was good.
Lyle Thompson says, did the word Ghibli come from Cam or you? That's a Cam word. That Ghibli is all Cam. I cannot take credit for that one.
Yeah, Cam is such a character that he's got to play somebody himself.
I'd almost want Cam to be the narrator for the series.
That'd work.
Yeah, I'd have Cam do the narration because a lot of series will have a narrator that'll talk about the history and describe things that are happening. Like an overarching, like the Nemedian chronicler from Conan the Barbarian. I can see Cam being just the voice of the series.
Cam is Steve the bartender.
Steve the bartender.
See, I don't see Steve
Cam is General Dalton. He's got the hillbilly accent.
That would work. I mean, I don't see Cam I don't see Steve as having a Southern accent. I see Steve being kind of neutral Midwest. But it's
Why not throw John Cena in there? He plays military good. I can see.
The problem is you can't see him.
Yeah, you just can't see him. Trying to think.
Actually, with Cena's the way his comedic timing, he might not make a bad Margolin.
He might not,
because he's got some comedy chops.
Kevin Bones
he's
screenplays to any producers. Number one, I don't know any producers, and number two, I don't know how to write a screenplay. I wish I did, but I would love to be able to send screenplays to producers, but I don't know. I don't have the contacts, and I don't know how to write a screenplay. I'm a story writer, screenplay writer. It's a different.
You might potentially be able to get the contacts, but the screenplay would be difficult.
Now, I know how to reach out to both Amazon and to Netflix, but the requirements are you need not only a screenplay, but you also have to have a short promo video. So I don't have the money to make a promo video. I'd have to get a bunch of people to volunteer to make a promo video. As Bill says, all
say,
Bill Jackson.
Well, bear in mind that we know Jonathan, and V-Wars was sold to Netflix, so we could probably get a contact, but like you said, the promo is the thing.
Contact them directly. They do take submissions, but you've got to jump through some hoops to get it done.
Powers Booth is Hammond. That would have been freaking awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or Kurt Russell.
Yeah. Kurt Russell would be good.
Greg House says, if a screenplay writer would read your books, they could write it. I would love that, man. I wish I knew a screenplay writer, as I don't understand how a screenplay works. It's outside my wheelhouse. I'm a storyteller, and it's like a lot of people just assume that if you can write one thing, you can write anything, and it's really not the same. I couldn't be a journalist because I don't write the way you would frame it for newspaper articles or or magazines. I don't write that way. I write story form. Same thing with a screenplay. You've got to worry about staging and the way you set up the dialogue and insert narrations. It's a different animal, and it's well outside my wheelhouse. I'm not saying I couldn't learn to do it, but it would stop my other production for me to stop and learn to do that. And I need to keep getting books out.
Well, your dialogue is good. You got the dialogue down, and I think you got the blocking for the action scenes down. But yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. Because part of the fun in your stuff is the dialogue. Most of it is the best parts of your books are the grab-assing between the various members of the military teams. That the typical military banter that is so entertaining.
Arkansas Hog Hunter says, I can see Nathan Jones as Kodiak. I'm not familiar with him.
Nathan Jones was that big dude that Brad Pitt killed in the first fight scene of Troy when he called the big guy and he jumped up and stuck him in the side of the neck. That's Nathan Jones.
Okay. Yeah, you might be able to do it.
He's not Native American. He's Australian, but who cares? I think somebody that would have been a good Kodiak in his younger days is the big dude from the program, Latimer.
Latimer? Mm-hmm.
Because he portrayed himself as Native American, and he painted his face up like first couple of games like that, and he had that hair pulled back kind of like Brock Lesnar's got now, and he was definitely big enough to be Kodiak.
Don Donaldson says Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa looks more Pacific Islander than Native American, but I could definitely see him playing.
Well, look at Frontier. He played. He pulled off Native American in Frontier.
True.
Remember that show?
That Frontier was a great series.
Yeah, and he pulled that off pretty good.
Well, maybe Jason Momoa is Gray Eagle then.
I didn't think about that. That actually wouldn't be bad.
I forgot about Frontier. That is a really good series. I'm surprised it didn't last longer than it did because it was really well done. I think I watched it all in one weekend.
That was a good series.
Edward Kung Fu says, talk to John Bell. He worked in Hollywood. I don't know John. I would love to. Yeah, if y'all got any contacts with any Hollywood producers, please send them my way because I would love to see these books made into film or series. I don't have the contacts and I don't know how to write a screenplay. Isabel says there are plenty of Native actors who will work. Yeah, I totally agree. A lot of Native American actors that do quite well. There's some fantastic Native American actors. So yeah, we would have for the Apex Predator series, we would have a lot of folks to choose from. In fact, there was one Native American actress in a couple episodes of Longmire that I think would be great for Sarah, but I can't remember her name. Kim Jones says, what about the Bloodline guys from wrestling? They'd be good for Gray Eagle, Gideon, and Kodiak.
Which version of the Bloodline? Are you talking about the new version or are you talking about the original? Because the original is Roman Reigns and the Usos. Now you got Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu and Amatonga and Tongaloa, who are Tongans. So I guess it really depends on who you're talking about them playing. It seems how you got two twin brothers, Jay and Jimmy Uso. That might not be bad for the Mohawk twins.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do have that comedic timing amongst the two of them. So that I don't know if they could act in a movie or not. I mean, I'm sure they can because most professional wrestlers that are at that level are some of the best one-take artists that you can find. That's why most of them do good in Hollywood.
Larry Berlin says, DA, have you thought about sending the Wild Hunt through a Stargate to hunt cryptids? They've got their hands full with a lot of crap going on in our universe. But when I get to the Project Olympus, we're going to deal with more alien threats. Project Olympus. Hopefully, I'll have the first Project Olympus book done either late this year or early next year.
Why not? I'm an encyclopedia of useless information.
I
Gilbert
was going to
says,
say you bounce that shit back pretty quick.
Gilbert Miller says, don't forget about the indie studios. They're the equivalent of indie publishing. But if you do, be sure to retain entertainment lawyer because the contracts are very long and detailed. Yeah, I would definitely have a lawyer read over anything before I signed it. But some of the indie films are making some pretty damn good movies. If they were going to make it into a Netflix series, I would hope that the same production company that did the Terminal List and Reacher would take over, because I don't want it turned into a mockery of what it is. I don't want it to be turned into some weird version of it. I would want it to be as true as they could. I would hope that they would put me on as a technical consultant for the production of the series. Fingers crossed that if they do it right.
Well, if you write the contract right, you're one of the producers. That's what Jonathan did with B Wars, and so he made sure that they stayed true to the characters.
Yeah, and that's what I would hope I would be able to do as well. Greg House says Bobcat Bob Goldthwait and Rob Lowe both believe in Bigfoot. You need someone like them with connections in Hollywood. Yeah, both of those guys would be great to reach out to.
Thad said he's talking about the original bloodline. So you're talking about Roman Reigns and the Usos. Obviously, yeah, the Usos would probably do good for the Mohawk twins. I don't know who. I can see Roman maybe being Mika.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's definitely big enough for that, and he's got that smart ass attitude and swagger about him. So yeah, I guess I could see that.
Brian Forrester, my buddy, he says you didn't know how to write a book at one point in time, but look where you are now. Yeah, that's very true, Brian. But they're very different skill sets. Brian's right. He was there for the whole process when I wrote my first Ragnarok book. It took me the better part of 2 years to write and finish my first novel, and now I could do one in 2 months. When conditions are right. But it doesn't take me 2 years to write a single novel anymore. And it was a learning process, but learning to do a screenwriting, not only is it a learning process, but it would take me away from the actual writing, which I can't really afford to do. That's my bread and butter, so I've got to keep getting books done. But hopefully I can find somebody who can assist in that. Gary Lowe says, great show, guys. Can't wait till the next one. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Have a great night.
Nah, Gary.
Isabel says, I thought the Dresden Files treatment was pretty good and the author was heavily involved. Yeah, Jim's a super nice guy. I met him in a convention in Kansas City once. Super nice dude. And I thought they did pretty good. For a Sci-Fi Channel production, Dresden Files was pretty good. They were fairly true to the source material, and Jim was involved. I would hope that I would have that level of involvement as well. Gilbert, you're absolutely right. I'm constantly trying to improve my craft.
I guess all that comes to what is in the deal that you end up signing as to how much
involvement I've got.
Yeah.
I would want to be actively involved. Roxanne Delgado says, DA, what's the one thing you would tell someone who wants to try and write stories and books? The best thing I can tell you is just don't give up. Keep writing, because not everything you're going to write is going to be gold. I can't not tell you how much stuff I've shredded or thrown in the trash or just out and out deleted. Write, even if it's bad, because writing is like any other skill. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. Over the years, I've probably written 2 or 3 million words when all told. Um, so with that practice, not only did my typing skill improve, but my storytelling and my dialogue has all evolved as I've continued to write. If you went back and read Ragnarok Awakening and compared it to my most recent novel, you can tell I wrote both of them, but you can also see how my writing process has evolved a lot. So yeah, just my best thing I can say is just keep writing, because not all of it's going to be good. Nobody sits down at a keyboard and writes a bestseller their first try. It it takes a lot of work. I think Stephen King said it best. It took him. I think he said it took him 12 years to become an overnight success.
Ed Peak's got an interesting one. Finn Balor for Declan Kane. He is Irish.
He is very Irish. Declan's dark-headed though.
Finn's got dark hair now.
Does he? Well, he used to be a redhead, didn't he?
And maybe back when he was in NXT, when he I think a lot of that was dye from when he was doing the Demon, when he was Prince Davitt, and he was Finn Balor the Demon, but he's got black hair now. Him and JD McDonough and Sheamus are all. The Sheamus is redheaded.
Well, then
I think
Sheamus
my favorite is
play Reardon,
Yeah.
because Reardon is not a dark-headed guy like he's more of like a blonde, like a reddish blonde.
I think my favorite Stephen King quote is like, he says, if you wrote something and somebody wrote you a check for it and you cashed that check and it cleared and you paid a bill with it, congratulations, you're a writer.
Mark, yeah, that's absolutely correct. If you get paid, you're a writer. Mark Napier says a lot of writers say to read to learn how to write. I've been reading everything I could get my hands on since I was a kid, and you that's how you study the craft. You look at what other writers do that is successful. You look at what other writers do that you like and you dislike. So you've got to be a writer. You've got to be a reader. But writing, like I said, writing is a skill, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
We're back up at the top of the hour. We've got all our sponsors or our affiliates in, right?
Yep.
Yeah. We're at the point we're probably going to start wrapping things up. But I know we got together to talk about Bigfoot, and it kind of evolved into a fantasy casting, but I really enjoyed it. I've had a lot of fun doing it. And we don't always take a whole lot of time to sit and talk about my books, and I'm really kind of glad we did. It's fun for me, and it's great to see how other people view these characters, and it's to me it's such a great exercise, because I get to see my stories through other people's eyes, and to me that's huge. D's says DA, I got it for General Dalton. How about the wrestler midget Little Beef? Dalton's going to be a pretty big dude.
What is the name of the little person from Game of Thrones? His name escapes me.
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage, yeah.
Peter Dinklage. Can you imagine him as one of these guys like Boudreaux or something? One of these badass. Well, Boudreaux's African American, but like one of these badass people. Like his whole delivery can be pretty harsh, but the fact that he's a little person would definitely add a level to it.
Mark says overcoming my fear of failure is what I need to do if I want to start writing. You can't think of it that way. Write if the only person that's ever going to read it is just you. Write for yourself first, because if you don't love what you write, no one else is going to either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the same for anything that you're going to do. Like my woodworking, I was scared to death. First flag I built, and I go in my sergeant's office all the time, and I look. He bought one of the first ones I ever made, and I look at that thing and I cringe, because I'm like, I can do so much better now.
Yeah.
But it's just something.
If you don't try, you have a 0 chance of success.
Yep.
So.
Was it Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take?
Yep.
There you go.
Ooh. Damian Priest is Mika.
I'm not sure who Damian Priest is.
He's the big. He's the world champion right now. He's in Judgment Day with Finn Balor and JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley. He's 6'6", I think, 6'7", somewhere around in there.
I know he's not Native American, but how about Bjorn Halfthorson as Kodiak? He's certainly that big.
Yeah, I don't know how much acting he's going to do because of that Bell's palsy. Now he said something one time that because somebody asked him if he was going to get back into acting, and he kind of prefaced the fact he didn't think he could do it anymore because of that. Or
Bell's palsy usually reverses itself eventually.
It's been about 4 or 5 years, I think, since that happened. He's still. I mean, you can understand him. I mean, it's not messed, but I think it's more of a psychological thing to him. He knows if he's out there lifting weights, it is what it is. Here you go. Brian Shaw for Kodiak. Yeah, he's definitely big enough too. 6'8", 385, 400 pounds, somewhere around in there.
Matthew McConaughey as Dalton. That would be a neat one.
Right, all right.
All right.
We couldn't have Owen Wilson because Dalton doesn't stop every other sentence and go, wow. I'd have to go back and change all the dialogue so he ended every sentence with wow.
Damon Wayans as Boudreaux. I'm picturing Damon Wayans in Major Pain.
If he's in there, he ain't happy.
There's blood, shit, and ass everywhere.
Damon Wayans is a good actor, though.
Yeah,
he's hysterical. He's a great actor, like you said. It's like Jamie Foxx has really turned into a real serious actor. Jamie Foxx would be a bad Boudreaux.
Yeah, I could see that.
Colonel Lucien Boudreaux. Jamie Foxx can do a really good Southern accent too.
Well, and he can go like dead serious too, but still, interesting.
Dad, yes, I am a very big wrestling fan.
Well, it is after the 2-hour mark. We probably should go ahead and start winding things down. I know Robbie's going to try to catch a nap before he heads to Missouri, and we're at a good place where we can wind things up. I've had a blast.
Oh yeah,
talking about fantasy
characters,
and that's really kind of brightened up my night. Woody Harrelson. I don't know who Woody Harrelson would play. Ryan's right. If you start, you can't stop. It is a skill that will get rusty. No, I don't know who Woody could play. I'm sure we'd find something.
Who I honestly see Woody as is the guy that runs the hotel in the Dark Frontier series. He's like, he's a hotel owner and the bartender. Like he's just,
Hold on.
He's the guy who gets things done.
I got to answer this. Greg, I am from South Carolina. I was a Mid-Atlantic NWA fan. I am a little stinger. I am not a Hulkamaniac. I've never been a big Hulk Hogan fan. I hated it when he came to WCW. He's one of the greatest. I'll give him that. But I am not a Hulkamaniac. Never have been. Never will be. Sorry. Had to get that out.
Woody Harrelson is Steve. That would be a fun one.
Be interesting.
He could do scary too.
D says Woody would be a great Margolin, the personality. Yeah, but he's little too old for Margolin.
Yeah.
He's an Army Ranger in his prime, so yeah, he's a little out of shape for that and a little old.
Well, half the ones who casted have been dead.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why it's fantasy casting. We couldn't get a lot of these guys. We couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Gary Sinise is Dalton. That'd be a good choice. And Sinise can do a good Southern accent.
Yeah. He did it in Forrest Gump.
Greg says I was a Hacksaw Jim fan as a kid. I met Hacksaw.
Oh!
I met him at a convention just about like 6-7 years ago. Super nice guy. He had the table right next to ours.
Well, like I said, Nikita Koloff's been to my house like 2 or 3 times for stuff. One of the nicest guys. And he actually changed his name to Nikita Koloff. That's his legal name now.
That's funny.
Mark, I'm with you. I was always a big Roddy Piper fan too.
Oh, I love Roddy.
You see, like I said, I'm Mid-Atlantic NWA. So Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Rock and Roll Express, the Koloffs, Road Warriors, Dusty and Magnum, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson. Those were the guys that I grew up with. You didn't really watch
Horseman, baby.
Yep. You didn't really watch around here. You didn't watch. I mean, you maybe got to see that Saturday night main event every once in a while, and some stuff on. But you know that was what we watched. We thought of as actual sport back then, obviously, because you were just a kid, and that stuff looked like made up movie type stuff.
Kim Jones brought up Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman is Davidson.
That would work.
I could see.
He could definitely pull off the youth and age at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Bode says Lyle suggested Tom Berenger. Berenger would be a good like CSM Hammond or he's older, but he's played military parts before. He's a good actor. I could see him in quite a few different roles.
Especially if he played it the same way he played Jake in Major League.
Mm-hmm.
You ever tanking
yeah.
Lyle, I did not. I remember when it was on, but I never watched it.
Yes, Lyle. Glow, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. Matilda the Hun. Actually, do you remember what's her name? Ivory from WWE? One of the first women's champions. That she was in Glow. She was Tina Ferrari in Glow. There's a couple of them. Yeah.
Well, y'all, let's we'll go ahead and start winding things down. Like I said, I want to get us off here so Robbie can get a nap in before he's got a very long drive ahead of him. Thank you guys for joining us. We had an absolute blast tonight. This was a lot of fun, very therapeutic for me. This last week has kind of sucked with no air conditioning and been stressed out over a couple of things, especially that upcoming surgery. So I got to laugh quite a bit tonight, and we got to talking about some of my favorite subjects and Bigfoot and talking about my books, and you guys just made my night. So thank you guys so much. Really put a smile on my face tonight, and I needed it. But before we go, I always want to talk about the 22 a Day Foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. Check out the Till Valhalla project because they support veterans charities, and like 90% of what they take in goes right back into helping veterans. And they're buying prosthetic legs and service animals and stuff. It's for veterans by veterans. They're all veterans that are doing this, and they're donating a lot of their own time to do it. Check out Till Valhalla. Remember the 22 a Day Foundation. Check out the Officer Down Memorial page, odmp.com. You'll see the loss of life we have in our first responders on a daily basis, and it's kind of, well, it's heartbreaking, and it's frightening the first time you look at it because the press doesn't report this stuff. Our men and women in uniform put everything on the line to keep us free and keep us safe, and they don't get nearly enough thanks for it. And the modern media just crucifies them every chance they get. Yes, there are bad officers out there. I will admit it. But Robbie and I will both tell you, and Steve will tell you too, nobody hates a bad cop more than a good cop. because they make the job worse for the rest of us. And it's a small percentage, and it's same thing with folks out there and all across the country and all across all walks of life. It's a small percentage of people that are out there looting and burning crap down and tearing stuff up. Most people are good folks. It's a small percentage of people that screw it up for the rest of us. Same thing with law enforcement. It's a small percentage of officers that are doing stupid things and making the rest of us look bad. Most cops will, throughout their career, will do many wonderful things. I've drawn my gun in the line of duty, but I've never fired it other than at a range. I've never had to shoot somebody, and I'm thankful I spent my entire career that way. I've never been shot. I've heard bullets get awful close, but I've never been hit. And I've never had to return fire, and I count myself lucky for that, because I don't have that on my conscience. But sometimes that happens. Sometimes officers have to deal with things that people shouldn't have to deal with. Same thing with our soldiers, all of our first responders. They see and experience things that will weigh on them for years to come. And that's why you should check on your friends and family that are veterans and still active military and first responders. Check on them, let them know you're thinking about them, because you never know when that text from you is what pulls them back from the edge. Even the people that seem to be wired together the best, that have everything locked down, sometimes are the ones that need it the most. The 22nd of each month is a good day to remind yourself of the 22 a day. Reach out to your first responder friends, reach out to your veteran friends, and let them know you're thinking about them. Because again, you never know when that one text might be what pulls them back off the edge. And let's get 22 a day down to 0. And I think that's a attainable goal. I really do. We owe these men and women more than we'll ever be able to repay. So we're going to wind up the show with a toast. It's something I'm pretty proud of that we've been doing for a while, and it's something I'm going to continue to do. And the toast is from a song called, an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass," and it's played at Irish pubs all over the world, generally at the end of the night when people are going home. But if you listen to the lyrics, especially if you haven't heard the song before, go listen to it on YouTube. But a lot of versions out there, and they're all pretty. And some of them change the words around a little bit, but the words tend to stick pretty close to the same on all versions. And I'm gonna give in this with a little bit of a toast from The Parting Glass. And the quote says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night, and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone.
Right. Sponge away.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.